I'm Katie Bennett-Stenton, a dual Australian US citizen and the National Marketing Lead for Energy Resources and Industrials with Deloitte in Australia. I'm fortunate enough to be spending 2 exciting months in our Chicago office while I put my kids into school and finalise their US citizenship. I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to spend time with a number of global experts, thinkers and leaders. While I'm immersing myself in a different culture within a much larger team, I'm really excited to learn about different insights and learnings. Throughout this time, I'm speaking to different leaders and sharing thought-provoking, relevant and influential takeaways. Today, I'm really excited to be speaking with Doug Ryder, who is the team principal for Team Dimension Data with the Qhubeka team. Doug, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Doug, it'd be great if you could tell listeners a little bit about your incredibly fascinating background, please.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm a South African, and and I was always a person passionate about cycling, and I went to the Olympic Games representing South Africa in Atlanta in 1996. And a strange thing happened. Actually, we were a small group of athletes, and this guy, Josiah Togwani, won gold in the Olympic marathon, which was brilliant for an African runner. And then kind of the theory behind, Africa producing the best endurance runners, why not cyclists? So I was a professional cyclist, and the dream in turn to become, I guess, a reality, to want to take African cycling to the top of the world and try and, take them to the Tour de France. And we realized that dream in 2015. It did take 20 years of hard work and blood, sweat and tears, but it was the first ever African team in the Tour de France. And so, that became, I guess, the vision and the dream all in one, to try and continue to take African cycling and to open the world of cycling and the continent of Africa to the world of cycling. And so, we've done 4 Tour de France's now, and we continue onwards and upwards as we try and do incredible things in the sport of cycling, whilst raising funds to mobilize kids on bicycles across the African continent, to give them hope and opportunity. And the bicycle has changed my life. It's changed the lives of the riders on our team, and we hope to race around the world, raising awareness and leveraging our success and media attention in the first division of world cycling to raise funds to put kids on bikes that have little hope and opportunity across the African continent.
Doug, even quite aside from any of the questions that we discussed speaking about today, there's so many different tangents that I really want to explore with you on that front. But how did you come up with the idea of putting African kids who perhaps hadn't had quite the same start as you did on bikes? How did that come about?
Well, it was interesting. There was a time when, I was working in IT and in technology and had a chance to travel a bit through Africa, and us just, Africa looked and seemed to be a continent of walkers. If you owned a bicycle, you were too poor to own a car, so you'd rather walk. It became a status symbol. And, so we thought, and I thought, if we could create this kind of African hero on a bicycle, we could make the bike cool, and then and get people interested in it. And I met, a guy, Anthony Fitzhenry in IT, who founded Qhubeka, and, started up a relationship with him and decided to have a partnership with Qhubeka for years before we even, embraced it fully in the team name of our team and take it to the next level. And he had this vision of actually computerizing, community schools, and realized that the biggest inhibitor for, education, I guess, was the access to the education and getting kids and students to school. So he started this Qhubeka bike, non-profit organization, just to do good and get people mobile. And we've met each other as you do, when you kind of thinking and going in the same direction, you sometimes do meet incredible people. And so, we decided to work together and do something really, really significant together. And, 10 years later, we're still doing great things, and he's still involved, and it's brilliant.
Wow, talk about doing something significant. It's such a wonderful, empowering story. What would you say has been the biggest turning point in your career?
I think, I guess, some, interventions, meeting Anthony Fitzhenry, the founder of Qhubeka, getting, I guess working in corporate and understanding and meeting, incredible people and doing decisions in the boardroom that gave me the business acumen to try and, focus on getting big corporates and people interested in, in this dream. And that was, I guess that was some of the turning points, meeting amazing people and talking about the passion that I have for African cycling and wanting to do something that had never been done before and getting, people to buy into it. And a lot of people thought I was mad to want to take a team to the Tour de France, from South Africa. And, and because it never happened before. And so it was pretty unique and pretty interesting, the journey to get to, to get people to believe in it. And it was an interesting time. And now we kind of, there.
Wow. Boy, must they look back at some of the conversations they had with you early on now, looking at the successes you've had.
Yes. It's been good.
Oh, absolutely. And I suspect that's a tremendous understatement. What would you say nirvana looks like in your career?
I guess, continuing to do what we're doing and taking an African rider onto the podium of the Tour de France, the ultimate race in cycling and the ultimate, the biggest race in the world, and a child that started on a Qhubeka bike to get to school, ends up at the Tour de France and on the podium. I mean, that would be the cradle to the Holy Grail story.
Oh,
and
yes,
that would be, I mean, I would definitely, and Anthony and I, we would, that would be, the absolute dream come true, that we've inspired and motivated and I guess, raised funds to put a child on a bicycle and who knows and understands that cycling is a sport and that he could potentially, or she could potentially earn a living of a bicycle and then could end up at the Tour de France and create a career of it. So, that would be nirvana, I think.
Oh, I get goosebumps just thinking about the prospect of that. I really hope to be able to see that into the future. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I think it'd be great.
Absolutely. Doug, would you say that you learn more from success or failure?
No, definitely from failure.
Talk me through that a little bit.
Well, I mean, it's it's only when the chips are down and and things aren't going according to plan and not the way you anticipated, that the people and around you that are connected with you pull together in a deeper, more concentrated way, and you need to get to those points to realize the impact that you make and what is needed to I guess to put you back on the right track and focus to go higher. Failure, it's like building a pyramid. The higher you want to go, the bigger your base has to be and the foundation. And I think getting knocked off the top and you don't reach the highest levels, I guess, if you're always riding a wave. You've got to get to the bottom of the wave to go higher. And I think that's we've seen that and realized that, and it's you have the right people around you that then pull together and you can go and reach higher heights. I think it's definitely failure helps you focus to do better.
Absolutely, and I think you're right. I mean, I think it's a lot of that, not only having the grit and determination to get back on the bike or the horse when you fall off and fail, but also having those people around you to push you and motivate you. I think is almost of equal importance. Has that been the case for you?
Absolutely. We've had a really tough year this year, and it's helped us refocus, and it's helped us, pull together. And then we had some incredible successes in the last couple of weeks, and just all that hard work and that belief and the connection between people, really comes together in a much stronger, much more, connected way, I guess, and it helps you align and focus. I mean, of course, some people, and I think that's what makes great people, great leaders, great teams. Is how you connect and how you support each other through the tough times. And that's where you really see the cracks in the ceiling and the wood from the trees and helps you align. Lots of people jump out of an environment and say it's too tough, I can't do it.
Yep.
and that's why they're not not many that end up right at the top of the pile, because sometimes they just can't take it.
Yeah, sure. And I think makes it all the sweeter for you and the team around you when having experienced some failures when you do have some really strong success.
And in sports, you get a lot of that, because you don't win all the time, and it is tough. And in cycling, in the environment that we're in, it's not like tennis where you have a 50% chance of winning or losing. You just beat the person on the other end of the court in that game. You've
Sure.
got 170 odd other riders, weather conditions, terrain, mechanicals. There's a lot. So when you win, it's unbelievable, and it's such a connected system, and magic happens when you've got brilliant individuals that pull together with a strategy, a plan, clear vision, and it just comes together, and it's magic when it happens, and it's few and far between, but they're so special.
Oh, absolutely. It sort of reminds me, although not a team sport, it reminds me of Usain Bolt talking about one of his Olympic wins, and the fact that when he does that he's decreed to be super lucky, and that he's visited by great fortune. And his response, I don't remember it verbatim, but it was something to the effect of, yes, but the people who are watching the Olympics don't see the many thousands of hours that I put in at the gym and training, and in the dark and the rain and slogging it out. They just sort of see the glory, if you like, in a few seconds.
The better prepared you are, the luckier you become, and that's for sure.
Yes, most definitely. Doug, how would you say that your life improves as a result of being better connected with people across the globe?
I think seeing the success and seeing the what has happened and what happens to people in there, and how they see success, and how the success through the eyes of the athletes, I think is something that makes and motivates us to want to continue to drive and to do more, seeing them step up and take responsibility and do significant things. So I guess that's what we like.
Okay. Changing tact slightly, what advice would you give to your 10-year-old self?
I think just, I have a 14-year-old and two 12-year-olds actually, and I was thinking that, I tell them all the time, never give up on your dreams, and try not to succumb to peer pressure, live for today, just be fearless. And that, I guess, but ultimately, kids rarely dream today, and I think there's so much going on, but I would never give up on your dreams, and believe it's possible, for sure.
And are they cyclists, Doug?
No, they're so busy with other sports. They're kind of not really following in the footsteps. They've been to many races, and they enjoy it, but I'm not pushing them. But they do like riding their bikes, but not one of them is, the bug is bitten to the point where they really, 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 think that this is their career.
Yeah.
But, they're doing their thing.
Had it bitten you by the age of 12 or 14, or did that come a bit later?
Yeah, no, I never had a bike until I was 12, and whenever I went to my friends' parties and they had a bike, and if they were my age and their parents let them have a bike, I used to never be involved in the party and just ride their bicycles around, in their driveway. And then my mom used to come and fetch me from the party and would speak to the other mom, and the mom would say, well, we never actually saw Doug. He was always on Peter's bicycle riding around the driveway. And then they eventually got me on my bike, and then I was out of there. I was independent, loved the freedom that it gave me, and so I was smitten.
Oh, I love that. Well, your twins are 12. Maybe it will strike one of them soon. I think for me, somewhat less glamorously, it was plastic Barbie houses that I was never allowed to have. So whenever friends had those, that was what kept me ensconced. I like your bike story better than mine. So Doug, tell me, what might people not know about you?
Well, I'm left-handed. I enjoy craft making. I love all ball sports, and I guess I cry in movies. So that's...
I like it. I like it. What was the last movie that made you cry?
Actually, it was a cartoon. that my kids were watching, and it was quite sad, and they were like, "Really, Dad?" And crying like in a, and I was like, this is not going to go anywhere.
Power to you. Good to be in touch with your emotions, I say. Tell me, what's your favourite song and why?
I've been, recently listening to, especially during the Tour de France this year when things weren't going, as well as we'd like, but I've been listening to a lot of Toto and Africa, which is, it's very personal. It is about Africa and the potential of Africa, and, and we believe, and I played in the team bus to the riders, and, it's cool. Toto's cool. And that song about Africa is a brilliant song, and I've been listening and love it, and it's kind of cool, different but cool.
I like it. Did the team take some similar inspiration from it?
They think I'm mad when I drum it, because they're various ages and they're much younger than me, and they're like, "Geez, who's this? Where does this old guy come from?" And I'm like, "Come on, man, listen to the words, like get into it." And then they're like, "Okay, well, we'll embrace it for you." But then as I walk off the team bus, they're like, "Okay," they play the other crazy stuff.
They go back to "Eye of the Tiger," that traditional song.
I like to ride my bicycle, I think, but I'm not so sure. Anyway.
I like it, and I think it's good to have other people think you're a little mad or eccentric. Far better that than bland and vanilla.
Exactly.
So, Doug, is there one thing that you don't understand about Australia or Australians?
Sure. Why is such a large part of the country uninhabited? I don't know.
Yep. I think particularly talking to somebody from Africa, that's a pretty good question. Yeah, we tend to be spread around the coast to a pretty large extent. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. I sort of find it interesting the fact that in broad terms the Australian and North American continents are a similar size, and if you look at the United States, that there are cities and states spread across the country and inhabited throughout. I sort of find that quite an interesting difference between the two countries.
Yeah.
Doug, if you could invite 3 guests, living or not, to dinner, who would they be?
I worked at Microsoft for a long time, so I would have loved to have have a conversation with Bill Gates, particularly now, in the things that he's doing, and also supporting, Africa and its challenges. Richard Branson is pretty interesting. I read all his books, so it would be quite interesting to get into his mind a little bit.
He's fantastic, isn't he?
Yeah, and then, Nelson Mandela I met him once before the Olympic Games in Atlanta. Yeah.
Oh, tell me about that.
1996. No, I mean, he's just, his presence and how he connects a room and the things that he says and the thoughtfulness and it's just, it's like, it's the energy around the person who was just so dynamic and so, forgiving and amazing. So that was pretty brilliant. And that would be kind of an interesting conversation to have.
That would be a fascinating conversation to have. What did he say to you?
Well, it was all of us. I mean, he just wished the team well. It was the second Olympic Games that South Africa was able to go to, and in Atlanta. And so, it was a small team, and he just come out and out of prison and was obviously the president of South Africa, and it was pretty special, and just wished everybody well, and the country's behind you, and just amazing.
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that. That must have been quite a career pinnacle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's special time in South Africa's history, and nice to be able to be around at that time. Yeah, so.
Well, and to be an Olympian, what did that feel like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a privilege actually to be with the best athletes in the world across every discipline, and all be together in one place. it's the pinnacle of I guess any sports person's career or opportunity, and you work so hard 4 years to get to just to compete and be ready and fit and healthy.
Yes.
During that time, and it's but just to see all the other countries and their flags and their and just watch the different sports, it's kind of cool. Sport is what connects with people in ways that nothing else does, and I think it's just to be in that space with the best 10,000 athletes in the world is quite a privilege.
What a privilege, and what an amazing achievement. You talked about crying before in movies, which I do as well, but I also tear up tremendously watching anybody receive a gold medal at the Olympics. I simply cannot help myself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's because the effort that's gone into it, and it's a life changer and a game changer for most. It's brilliant. I love it too,
absolutely. So moving, incredibly moving. Never gets old.
Absolutely.
Doug, what's the best piece of business advice that you've ever been given?
I've read a lot, and I just think that mature companies, and someone said to me that mature companies fail because they forget why they were born. And that resonates deeply with us as a team, because our wish and our dream is to mobilize the African continent and leverage our success to do that. And many teams or businesses start out in a direction, and then that changes. And I mean, sometimes it changes for economic reasons or whatever, but it means if you believe in something and want to make it sustainable, it is around the why, and you must never forget the why. So I think that's
I like it. Thank you. And Doug, just to close off, is there any career advice that you have for listeners out there?
For me and who I engage with in my team, it's just to stay true to who you are. I guess never give up, and believe in dreams and be ambitious, because having a vision without ambition is just a dream, and I think that's that's something that we live by, and that we try and ambition is around the fire that burns in your belly, that gets you up every single day and gives you purpose and relevance. And I think definitely most people have a vision and most people dream, but if you don't have that ambition, then it's you're never going to succeed and never reach those heights that you potentially could. So yeah, thank you.
If we go back to that 10-year-old self that we talked about earlier, do you think you had any idea that you might accomplish what you have thus far in your life?
I dreamed of doing something significant, but the dream really formalized later on, and the possibility of it. But then it was just going in one direction. But you always, every child dreams to do something significant and wants to do something that is, I guess, never been done before, especially if you've got a very open, free mind. And so.
Do you think it's something different about your makeup that gave you or has given you the drive and determination to achieve what you have?
I think it's circumstance from where we, if you're in South Africa and, the country that we're in, and the diversity and the cultures, that also helps. You're in, it's not in a controlled space. It's very open. You meet lots of different people. And I think that also has a role to play in how big, far, wide, you potentially could go and what you believe in. And so I think that also has a role to play in that. But
difficult question to answer, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Doug, really appreciative of your time today. It's been incredibly interesting to talk to you, and I think I perhaps would love to follow up with you again at some point and go off on a few different tangents that we haven't had a chance to explore today. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much to you too.